which is normal. As human beings, we're created literally to multiply. So at some point, it's pretty normal for men and women alike to desire family. So women begin to desire family at around those ages. And what happens is they want to date a man that makes equal to or a little more money than them. And they find out if you're making $7K a month from slanging OnlyFans videos, you ain't gonna get that in a pizza delivery guy. You're gonna need a professional man. Generally speaking, the men who make that amount of money are engineers, doctors, and lawyers that have a professional image that they need to uphold, and they don't want to deal with women that have sold themselves online. And so you're making this kind of money every month, but you don't have any partners that you can really share that with. You don't have any family, and now depression sets in because you have no way of getting out because you're not gonna go back to slinging cheeseburgers.
Hi, I'm Sarah Williamson. It's time you asked your sales and RevOps team a few important questions. For example, are you overspending on your tech stack? When it comes to sales and velocity, how fast is fast? What are the main ways your organization is leaving revenue on the table? DealHub surveyed more than 100 revenue leaders to gain understanding of how they're managing that sales stack, dealing with pricing and subscription challenges, and conducting deals in a dynamic workplace. By seeing how you compare to the results, you can uncover certain blind spots within your own organization, eliminating weak links in your sales process and making changes that directly impact your bottom line. Ready to find out how you stack up? Read the 2021 benchmark report for.
Makes sense for me to be like a fun party girl online. It just sucks when I over into real life. I really like this guy because it feels like the one place I don't have to be that girl. It feels like I am that girl. Like, he doesn't even see the right content. That's the thing. This guy does not give a fuck about social media at all. So when he asks me about like my dreams and my goals and everything, it feels as if I can't tell him. It feels as if I can't get excited. Like I think he would be enthralled. Like he would make me better if I could talk about my goals. And I find it difficult to do that with him because I know he doesn't like care about social media. So I'm at a crossroads now. I'm never going to publish this, I hope. Like, it is important for me to talk about, but I'm not sure that this is, like, in the same. But I just want to, like, get my thoughts out. Because I've been being rough all night. Like, you can hear, I've been crying literally all night. I have no makeup on. I'm sitting in the bathtub. He's asleep in bed.
Yeah.
And I'm in the bathtub. Having a breakdown. Like, I'm not even in his bathroom. Like, I'm in the guest bathroom. In the bathtub. Because he doesn't like that. I date a lot of guys. I date a lot of successful guys. I date a lot of older men. And it's true. It's 100% true. I'm not lying about any of those things. What I am lying about is how, like, fulfilling it is. What I'm going to be honest about is that does work. And that is what I was trying to do. Basically, what I like to do is I like to go out and meet like a lot of people and just kind of like see how relationships develop as I go. The issue is straight up, like, I will stop seeing you.
Yeah, because he has options.
It's like this, just like insane party girl, you know? Like, if you see me as a hot piece of ass and that's it, I can't continue doing this. As much as I love the time that we spent together, as much as I think that he inspires me and encourages me, but like, if that's the way he sees me, then that's the end of our relationship. I hope he sees me as more than that.
And this is what I talk about so much. It's part of the branding. What else is he supposed to do? What else is he supposed to see? You talk about the fact that he's 25 years older than you and he has a child, and people are calling you a gold digger. I wonder why. Maybe it's because that's what you promote yourself as. People aren't even paying attention to how they brand themselves on social media. They just think it's just this thing they can lollygag on. They're trying to make money off of it. They're not understanding the brand that they're presenting to the people that they're going to have around them. What else are people going to judge you based on other than the things that you do? And the things that you do, you broadcast on social media. See. Of course, you're going to have a preconceived idea of who you are as a person. I don't understand how these people can get to do all this SEX work and then start to decide, hey, I'm not that. People should see me as this. People should see me as a housewife. That's not how that thing works. If I'm out here wearing a pizza delivery outfit, you're gonna think I'm slanging cheesy bread, right? Like, that's just what it is. And unfortunately, when you brand yourself, it's called a brand for a reason. If you brand a cow, that brand stays on that cow until it goes to the butcher. You know what I'm saying? It stays on you until you admit it. Look at Lizzo. You can't get out of that. Every time she loses weight, her own audience turns on her and starts calling her fat phobic because she's built her brand on that type of thing. She's built her brand on body positivity, and she didn't
super
even have to
easy.
do
Just
that
get the
because
balls
she's
into the
already
mix.
talented. Anything
Okay, one
that
bad
gets
shot,
you
I got
fast
this.
money has strings attached. There's no such thing. If I go out and sell drugs, the consequences are I could get locked up, or I'm going to get stuck selling drugs for a long time until I get locked up because there are other people around me that rely on the money that I'm making. Also, if I've been selling drugs for a long time, I'm probably not going to want to go and start adding salt to fries. That's not what I'm going to want to do because I've made that certain amount of money, so I get stuck in that lifestyle. This is a very similar thing. Very similar thing, but it's just seen as okay because it's legal. So a lot of people are diving into a lifestyle. They have no idea what it is. They don't know about the drug issues. They don't know about the STDs. They don't know about the mental health issues. They don't know about the relationship issues. And we're using these euphemisms to promote this idea. These are adult content creators. These are not SEX workers. They're adult content creators. And the content that they're making is not prawn. It's just silly, cute, sexy videos and pictures. Till next time.
My boo, I'm just here for the rendezvous. And I came the whole damn crew, cause I've been feeling like you want me to. You say stop saying I'm so up. I can't help myself when I poke up. Headshot.
Try Zoho CRM.
This national security stuff is important. As I said, I think China is doing what suits China. What China wants to know is why we're not doing what suits us. China is, I don't think we need to be hawkish and picking a fight. I think we need to stay calm. I think we just need to be confident and actually work out what Australia wants and needs, and our role in the Pacific is critical. And as a member of the Commonwealth of Nations, as an old democracy, Australia is naturally a country that fledgling democracies like the Solomons and others turn to every time they're in trouble.
Yeah, and fair enough. And you're right. I mean, we need to be somewhat careful here. I mean, China could basically ride roughshod over anyone they wanted to, but at the end of the day, China also derives a lot of benefit out of having a good relationship with a country like Australia. They've been bullish with us to a certain degree. We've been bullish with them. You know, we're doing the dance that is often done. It's not always a sinister thing, as much as they try to make it look so. It's unfortunately just part of the way that you have to deal with bullying countries like China sometimes. But making sure that we are acting in our interests and really the interests of the rest of the Western world in the Pacific and places like Solomon Islands is smart, because we know that China is investing in these little Pacific islands. It's throwing money at them under the Belt and Road scheme, the one that our mate Daniel Andrews here in Victoria tried to sign our state up to. And basically the way it works, unlike when we give foreign aid or we give physical aid to these nations, China is basically saying, look, we'll lend you the money, but at some point we're going to come knocking for it. And that is what we have to be worried about. So the more we can do to cement ourselves in the Pacific and to help, I know there's discussion at the moment about whether we should wind back some of the aid we give to Pacific nations. Now, it's not usually me to sit here and say we should be throwing more money at foreign aid, but when we're talking about the Pacific, we are really talking about our neighbours, and do we want to cede more ground to China in the Pacific? Of course we don't. So we have to be able, we have to be fair, we have to be available, and we have to make sure that we maintain a good relationship with China, but that does not come at the expense of us and the rest of the world. It's a difficult balancing act, but I think it's one that this government is doing quite well. We've stood up when we need to stand up, but we're not going around saying we're going to fire bullets at China. Do that. We know where that would get us. It's all about good diplomacy at the end of the day.
Well, no.
Well, look, it's all true, and Lisa, that's the point, isn't it? That Australia has to work out what Australia wants, and Australia does have a major role to play in the Pacific. We should be the ones, without putting big strings attached to it, that are becoming a big brother, not a big controller. We need to be
I just wanted to
that
show you what I
voice
made
of
in an
reason
hour and a
that
half
the
of playing
Pacific
this.
turns to, or else.
With Ring Alarm, when someone broke into my house,
Hour and a half.
before I could do anything, I got a call.
No doubt some would draw comfort from the online.
After the passage of President Biden's spending bill in the House, progressives in the chamber look for new efforts to push Biden on top agenda items. Among those is canceling a healthy chunk of student debt. Chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, Pramila Jayapal, said on Twitter, quote, "Now let's help everyone and cancel at least $50,000 in student loan debt for everyone." New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez called out Biden in the New York Times, saying there's an enormous amount of executive action they're sitting on that I think is underutilized. On student loans with respect to climate, there are certainly things we can do with immigration. In California, Congressman O'Connor echoed these sentiments when he joined us here on Rising.
Really, what gives? I mean, why has the administration been more focused on tackling these things that have delivered him those votes from those young voters?
They should be. And as you know, Ryan knows, I've been a defender of the administration of Build Back Better and even with the bipartisan infrastructure bill. But there is no reason that the president shouldn't sign something to forgive student loan debt in this country. I mean, I've said up to 50,000, but at least do something of 10, 15, 20,000 so that you are addressing this huge burden of the next generation that can't buy a house. In some cases, they don't want to have kids. They're saddled with this debt. Address that and take some bold actions, further actions on climate. I completely agree that this is a low-hanging fruit. The president ought to do it.
Supporters of canceling student debt say it's one of the essential ways to address the increasing wealth gap in our country. But why stop there? Thousands of Americans are saddled with all kinds of debt, including medical debt, credit card debt, and more. Why not cancel all of it? At least that's what author and organizer Astra Taylor argues in her new piece, saying, if the Biden administration is serious about, quote, Build Back Better, it needs to take bold action. This country cannot afford to allow millions of struggling households to sink when mountains of old bills and back rent suddenly come due, payment pauses and eviction moratoriums end. The government can and must find ways to make crushing debt disappear. Astra Taylor joins us now to discuss. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
And so, Astra, I want to zero in first on medical debt. The thing that the right has used to fight back against the push for canceling student debt is kind of an elite argument. Why should you allow somebody who went to Harvard and racked up a ton of debt, having a good elite education, and getting entry into the 1% as a result? Why should they have their debt canceled when so many other people are struggling? Medical debt really rebuts that in a way, to me at least, in the sense that nobody thinks that a person who has medical debt got some privileged experience. They had some health crisis that led them to probably become hospitalized and then come out with that with that debt. So I don't know, of those, which of those do you think are the most palatable?
Well, first I want to actually rebut the Harvard argument, because
Sure.
the truth is undergraduates don't come out of Harvard with very much student debt. Harvard has an enormous endowment that covers much of the student body, and a lot of students who go to Harvard are rich. You know, they have parents who can pay the tuition, their legacy admissions. So that's actually kind of a myth. And, you know, it's a small number of students. The vast majority of this country go to public schools, to state schools, for-profit colleges. So, you know, as we like to point out, student debt is already means tested. The people who take out student loans do it because they have to. People from wealthy backgrounds, you know, have their parents pay for college. So that is something I think we really need to challenge out of the gate. But certainly medical debt is an example of a kind of debt that nobody is taking on willingly. You're not going, it's not the same thing as going to a bank and to a loan officer and shaking hands and saying, yes, you know, we'll repay those terms. Instead, you know, you're in an emergency. You're literally going to the emergency room. People have enormous amounts of debt from medical emergencies, from the ambulances that they take to get there. Medical debt is the leading cause of bankruptcy in this country. So these debts, you know, shouldn't exist on a moral level. And in many countries, in countries with universal health care, they don't exist. The last thing I want to say about that is a huge percentage of what we call credit card debt in this country is actually medical debt, because people pay for these treatments with the swipe of a little plastic card because they don't have insurance, or they're, you know, not, they have insurance, but actually it doesn't cover everything. So medical debt is absolutely a crisis. Again, a leading cause of bankruptcy, which means a leading cause of homelessness. We know experts are warning about a massive increase in medical debt post-pandemic. And I really do not understand the moral arguments for saddling people with this debt and allowing it to tank people's credit score.
People today could spend half their lives over 50, but it's gonna take some planning.
What can you do for me?
Make sure your money lives as long as you do. The younger you are, the more you need AARP. Join today.
Is that our teacher, Miss Anderson? That's Mr. Puddles.
City invests in affordable housing so teachers can be a bigger part of the communities they serve.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to Recommender Meyer and the committee for this important hearing. Real quick, a couple things. It's kind of been debated amongst the members. 98% of the 31 million small businesses in our country are less than 100 employees. Obviously, that is true. But the other truth is that with the OSHA mandate, which is unconstitutional, by the way, this OSHA vaccine mandate being pushed by the administration would start at 100 employees. The administration's already signaled that they want to push it to all small businesses, not just stopping at those with 100. So let's be very clear for the record what the intention of Joe Biden and his presidency is. I actually want to thank the Fifth Circuit and the other courts that have struck down that mandate, because it is unconstitutional. Congress never gave OSHA any authority whatsoever to tell employers what they must require employees to inject into their body. We have such a thing called HIPAA in the United States. It's surprising to me that we have forgotten our HIPAA laws, considering with the fact that we're largely dealing with COVID-19 in the best possible ways. Secondarily, I think it's also important to note that any president that has the authority to make you take an injection is, frankly, a totalitarian president, and that flies in the face of our Constitution, the way it is written, the way it was drafted, the way it was conceived, even the very framework of our nation. So it's unconstitutional. If that thing's going to go away, hopefully the courts continue to do that and the Supreme Court follows suit in short order. Real quick, Administrator Guzman, thanks so much for coming. Do appreciate you being here. You mentioned earlier you believe inflation is pandemic induced. Do you hold the view that it is purely pandemic induced? Can you explain that?
I am relying on our economists who are sharing with us that, and most agree that the pandemic is causing these supply chain disruptions globally.
Do you think it's that the pandemic is causing it, or do you believe that it is now work-related issues associated with massive social spending and also in conjunction with environmental policy in the state of California, which has made it harder for truckers to access the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles?
The pandemic is underlying all of the inflation, yes.
Is there any reason why the social spending that, frankly, this Congress and this president started back in February, if we did not actually continue that social spending, do you think that we would have employees basically sitting at home or taking
What I'm hearing from small businesses, and I'm not sure what you're hearing in your district, but that their workers are staying out because of care issues, because of healthcare concerns, because there also was, as
So,
the
quick question. So, when a local 7-Eleven down the street from my house has in the window that they want to give somebody a $500 signing bonus to come to work, that's because they're concerned about care issues, or is it because they're concerned about money? Or is that there is now a bargaining chip from the federal government that gives them more money than actually going in and taking more hours? Which one is it?
What I was about to say as well is the final thing is, what I heard recently when I was convening a group of resource partners at the Institute for Veterans and Military Families, that there's this great resignation as well, and people are shifting careers. So these are the more dominant factors that are affecting our workforce. And yes, they're in control in terms of, the opportunity that they have to demand higher wages.
Let me ask you this question, because I know you said earlier you support, obviously, the budget reconciliation package, Build Back Better, Build Back Broke. Everybody likes their little acronyms. So, come on. This thing's building us back broke. You can acknowledge that, but I digress. Do you think that the social spending aspects of that bill will make it easier or harder for small business owners to find employees?
I think actually it'll make it easier, and there are key investments within the Build Back Better framework that involve workforce development, apprenticeships,
and back
as well as
administrator. I almost gave you a title increase. Administrator. Can we honestly have a conversation and sit here that if you do something like child tax credit, which will give people $300 per child, that's going to make it easier for them to go back to work? Or is it going to make it harder? Is it going to make an economic decision where they're going to make the choice of, you know what, maybe I don't need the additional 5 hours? If you cascade that through an economy across the 31 million small businesses in the United States, do you think it's going to be easier or harder for small businesses to staff their companies in order to be effective for their customers?
As President Biden says,
well, we all know President Biden doesn't know much about the economy.
We
know
can't
this.
bet against the American people, and workers who want to work, who want to have the protections that in place and the care for their elders or for their
Administrator
children.
Guzman, the
that's
President of the United States, has never worked a day in his life outside of Washington, D.C. You've done more than he has. Come on now. You are a small business owner. If the federal government was providing outside spending that competed directly with your ability to pay people to come to work, do you think it will make it harder for you as a small business owner, which you were, not an administrator now in the administration, would it make it easier or harder for you to keep people under your employ?
Again, these investments in Build Back Better will strengthen
and
our
I would,
workforce.
if you excuse me,
apologies.
The quorum is important in this committee. And
Madam Chair, I was just referring to the
President of the
President.
United States is part of that.
Madam Chair, the President of the United States has never worked in our economy. Those are facts. That's not about decorum. That's the truth of the matter. He has never worked a day in our economy. He's always worked in Washington, D.C. To point out that fact and to illustrate the fact that we're talking about major economic policies that do impact the 31 million small business owners in our country is not about decorum. I didn't trash the man. I'm speaking facts.
We're gonna give him something to talk about. Oh my God, this thing right now! You're not a girl's girl. Why would you say that?
Oh, you.
Who the do you think you are, Ramona?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for coming before us. I represent Tennessee, and Tennesseans talk regularly about the importance of a fair judiciary, something that is equal treatment under the law. So having these hearings is important to us. Mr. Ruiz, I want to start with you. And very similar to what Senator Blumenthal was asking each of you, most of your background is in civil proceedings, and you have very limited experience in criminal proceedings, and you have not written significant opinions on federal or state constitutional issues in your role as a magistrate judge, even though you say you've learned quite a bit from that position. The majority of your writings and your decisions are unpublished. So could you tell us what in your judicial experience would give you the qualifications to sit as a district judge? And I'll give you about 30 seconds on that one.
Thank you for the question, Senator. During the past 5 years, sitting as a magistrate judge, I had the opportunity to preside over extensive number of civil and criminal cases. During that time, as a magistrate judge, I'm responsible for approving and reviewing search warrants, pen trap traces, criminal complaints, matters in the criminal
You
world.
feel that the limited criminal and the civil work that you've had is a qualifier.
Thank you for the question, Senator. Not only the experience that I've had presiding over criminal cases and criminal hearings as a magistrate judge, I've also had the opportunity to prosecute a criminal case when I was in the United States.
Let me end it with that. Headshot. Go to Mr. Headshot. And talk with you about amicus with the King County Bar Association submitted for Grutter versus Boland. Argued that promoting diversity in the legal profession is a compelling governmental interest, and that this compelling interest requires sensitive. I want to hold that view. And do you believe discrimination on the basis of race is permissible in college admission?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I believe that brief was written almost 20 years ago, and I was on a team of lawyers that put that brief together. When I